Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the REC podcast, brought to you by REC Comics and Collectibles. I am your host, Roman Chavez, and with me, as always,
Erik Icarus.
Yes, we've
yes.
got some DC stuff to talk about today.
We do. Yeah.
Right off the bat, man, there's a lot of cool and interesting news coming out about this year's CW TV show crossover for the DC superheroes.
All right.
And a couple tidbits. You know, they've been doing these crossovers. I believe this will be the fourth year. First year was meh. Second year was great.
Okay.
Third year, I don't even remember what the crossover was. I honestly, for the life of me, guys, I cannot remember what the crossover was.
Yeah.
And then, so this is going to be the fourth year of the crossover.
Okay.
We know that Arrow, this is going to be its final season.
Yeah.
And it really feels like they're pulling out all the stops.
Oh, they have to.
And some of the cool news that they've talked about is, one thing is that Brandon Routh, who is currently Ray Palmer, the Atom, on DC's Legends of Tomorrow, will reprise his role as a Superman from a different Earth, but he's going to be apparently like the Kingdom Come Superman.
Oh, no.
It does not sound like we're going to get much like backstory into the Kingdom Come, but he'll be wearing the S, he'll have the gray and all of that stuff, which is super fun.
That's cool. That's pretty awesome.
They've even gone so far as to tap Burt Ward, our original Robin from 1966, and they're going to bring Burt Ward back as Robin, or at least Dick Grayson, I would imagine.
Yeah.
From another Earth.
Okay.
Which I would love if, like, on that Earth, like, he's Batman. He's not Robin.
Cool.
He's Batman.
Yeah.
Or he was Batman because...
And I can see him because he's older, obviously, and he is like the Batman in Kingdom Come where he's got the tech suit on.
That would be very cool.
And, he's like, Bruce passed away. I had to carry his legacy on, but only human. And
yeah.
the ages. That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah, like, I think that's genius. I think that
cool.
it's absolute genius.
That's so cool.
And it's too bad that Adam West isn't still around.
Yeah,
because Adam West would have loved it.
They would have grabbed him, for sure.
They've used Linda Carter in the Supergirl show as, like, the president in the United States in Supergirl, but it would be awesome to see Linda Carter.
I have not seen her in a long time. Does she still look Wonder Woman-esque, or is
she's definitely had a lot of work done, so like she doesn't look bad by any means, but she definitely has had a lot of work done to her face.
Yeah.
So it is kind of pulled back a bit and everything. And she still has an amazing body for her age, and I mean she doesn't look bad, but it's just like, she had work done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, do you think they would take it there? Do you think they could maybe tap her to maybe be Wonder Woman?
I would love it. I mean, even if we just see her in passing, we just see her on Themyscira, like they're jumping, and maybe they bring in a Wonder Girl or something like that. But we see old Diana on Themyscira.
Totally.
And I mean, obviously, she doesn't age. She's not supposed to age, but they have had her look a little older in the comics, so I'm down with that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But probably one of the most interesting things is that the voice of Batman, the voice, Kevin Conroy, is supposed to be in it as old Batman.
Man. So the actor
Kevin Conroy is going to be on screen as old Bruce Wayne.
That to me is probably the biggest revelation.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've ever seen him in a live action role, like an acting role. Like
yeah,
he's a voice actor, right?
He tried to be an actor back in the day, and I'm sure he's had some bit parts here and there, but obviously his bread and butter is Bruce Wayne and Batman.
He is the Batman for me.
Hands down.
Definitive.
Hands down.
For sure. I mean, I probably am not alone in saying this, but when I read Batman, that's who I hear.
Yeah, completely.
Kevin Conroy.
Completely.
So
and it'll be interesting if it would be cool. Like, just make him the Bruce Wayne from that world of Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
Maybe whatever's happening in this crossover. I don't know anything about the antagonists or anything like that, the storyline, but maybe Terry's gone. Or Terry disappears.
Yeah.
So they need to use Bruce. I mean, just getting old Batman would be awesome.
Yes.
It would be.
I'm totally okay with that, man. Oh, man. I haven't watched any of these shows.
Yeah.
I would probably tune into this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know you said you're maybe behind on a few episodes.
I'm behind on most of it. They lost me because they got too. It's not about being a superhero anymore. It's about who's dating whom.
Oh, that's right.
The government, and it's just like they lost me. They lost me as a fan of the shows.
Wow.
However, they will get me back to watch this crossover because of the people that they're bringing in.
And seeing as how this is Arrow's last outing, this will be one of his last runs.
Yeah, just do everything. Just do everything.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, I'm gonna tune in.
Yeah, I'll record them. you can come by and watch them.
You
can come by and watch them when you want.
But
I thought that was some fun news to discuss and to see what's going on.
For the main course.
Main course. We're going to stay in the Batman world. And DC's animated Hush came out.
It did.
You guys know it's my favorite Batman story of all time. It is Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb, and they crafted this beautiful maxi series, this 12 issues of, really everybody in the Bat universe, while also introducing a new villain, Hush.
Yes.
It's my favorite comic book. We've talked about it at great lengths.
Oh, yeah. And again, having talked about it at great lengths, we can't talk about it enough.
It's
amazing.
We could do another show about the comic.
I think we might have to, because it's that good. It's funny, real quick. When this came out, again, not into comics, this is probably what kind of got me back into being a casual fan.
Totally.
Was you handing me the trade to this and being floored.
Yeah.
Being floored by this story. This and Identity Crisis.
Yeah.
You handed those two trades to me and I was like, blown away.
they're so good. And Hush is one of those books I buy copies of the single issues anytime. I'm addicted to the comic. Anytime I see a good price on the comics,
sure,
I buy them.
Yeah,
I'll buy them to the end because it's my favorite artist and my favorite Batman story. I love Jeff Loeb, here and there, but this is Jeff Loeb when he was the man. He could write multiple characters like you would not believe.
Oh yeah,
he was so good at ensemble. He brought in every single person for this story.
He did.
So they announced last year, I believe it was at Comic-Con, maybe a little bit after, that they were going to do Hush animated, and I was over the moon.
You're like, oh yeah, and well, this is right, well, because they did Killing Joke, right? They showed I'm sure they showed a piece of Killing Joke at Comic-Con.
They have,
year.
yeah.
And they're like, hey,
a couple years ago now. Yeah, a couple years ago. Yeah,
Hush coming out. Yeah. Everyone probably lost it.
I really, a lot of people have some problems with the Killing Joke adaptation. I enjoy it as much, if not more, because they added some stuff to it that I think fleshes out that story a little bit more.
Sure.
People don't like the Barbara Gordon, Bruce Wayne kind of hookup stuff. Right. I didn't need it, but I was fine with it.
Yeah, what people don't understand is Killing Joke is a 45-page comic.
Yeah, it's short.
You wanted them to just do a 45-minute movie?
Yeah.
You need to add in a little more, and again, I wasn't totally on board with it, but I get why they did it.
And there's precedent. There's precedent in the Batman Beyond universe that Barbara and Bruce were an item.
That's right.
So
right.
I can kind of reconcile that a tad.
Yeah,
I can reconcile that.
That's true.
You're Dark Knight Returns.
I am indeed.
You love the Dark Knight Returns. Is that your definitive Batman story?
I think it's Killing Joke.
It is Killing Joke? Okay, fair enough.
No, Dark Knight's up there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Definitely up there.
For sure. And I just think Dark Knight is okay, but the art kind of really pulls me out of it. So when they did the animated adaptation and they made it 2 movies, they cut out all the fat and they condensed a lot of things that I didn't like.
Yep.
And it's everything from that story, and it's amazing.
It is.
Oh, my God. I love the animated version of Dark Knight Returns far more than I like the comic.
And again, I will maybe not. I think it's 2 different things for me, but I love it. I love what they did because they did cut out unnecessary things for it, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah,
but those talking head moments, glad they cut those out.
And it's not even that they cut them out; it's just that we get to see them as the news.
For sure, and it's more condensed.
It's a 30-second thing instead of 2 pages.
There you go.
Of what? 20 little panels of poor art and the news.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sorry, guys. Dark Knight Returns is not my end all be all.
For sure.
There's great stuff in it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It is an amazing story, but
there are better ones told.
And
even I can admit that.
It's told better animated, and it works.
And it does. Absolutely right. And I think that's where maybe this falls into a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric. Go ahead. I'll let you go for this one.
No. I just when Roman told me Hush was coming out in DC animation, I was floored and Roman lent me the copy and I watched it and my first reaction was I saw Roman, I was like, this was a piece of
garbage.
And I was like, well, that's a little harsh. And I had a real reflective moment, like, yeah, it kind of was. It wasn't that bad.
It's not a piece of garbage, but it is not as good as the comic. No. It did not do for me what the Killing Joke and the Dark Knight Returns animated did for their books.
Sure.
They were a very good rendition, if not improvement, on the original.
Yeah, no, you ain't kidding.
And guys, obviously I was going to be hard on this, and I got to tell you, It's a
Spoilers
C.
abound.
Yeah, spoilers. It's a C- at best. On its best day, with everything going right, it's a C-.
Yeah.
They change so much of the story. I don't understand why.
Right.
It is, in my own words, a Korean karaoke cover of the comic book. I love Korean karaoke, guys. I do it. I got Korean relatives. I'm all about it. It's all the words are there and the music is there, but it's not quite the song. Okay? And that is how I felt about this. They add things, they change things, and right off the bat, there's a great scene in the comic book. Bruce is chasing Catwoman.
Yep.
She seems a little off.
Yep.
He's encountered Killer Croc, who is more monster than he normally looks in the comic.
Yep.
And he's holding this kid for ransom and is like, hey, my mutation has gotten worse. I need this money to go back at least a little bit.
Yeah.
He's taking this kid. Batman beats him up, but then the money disappears.
Yep.
So Bruce is chasing the money, and it turns out to be Catwoman.
Right.
While he's en route, his bat line grappling hook gets shot, cut.
Yeah.
And he falls, and he's like trying to. It's a great narrative. It's Jeff Loeb for me. It's his best writing ever. He's falling in this alley in Gotham. Tries to grab a gargoyle, rips his shoulder out of socket.
Yep.
You know, he's hitting the sides of the buildings, and then falls and hits the ground.
Yeah.
And he is messed up.
Yeah,
You hear Alfred in his ear, like, sir, he's not responding. Alfred is reaching out to the Bat family, who's close to... Go get him. And Huntress shows up in the comic.
Oh,
and it's great.
I love that moment.
And it's fantastic because you see these, guys, these kind of crackhead guys trying to get under Bruce's mask to, take it off. And it's got defenses, and it's very cool. Gas, electricity. You know, there are minimal defenses to keep him from being... Yes. And Huntress shows up. And she has a great fight. And at this point in the comics, Huntress is kind of not on the outs. She's a part of the Bat family, but her father is a crime boss, and she's trying to be better.
There you go.
But in the movie, it's Batgirl, which
fair enough.
Okay, fine.
Sure.
It's Batgirl. You don't want to explain who Huntress is to people.
Yep,
fine,
exactly.
Fine, you can do that.
Yeah, that change is fine.
It's just such a for me. It's a dynamic shift because it should be Huntress because there's something that plays to it later.
Yeah.
And it's a small change. You're like, oh, it's a Huntress is Batgirl as well, but it's not. It's not the same thing. There's no you don't need to change it.
It didn't even need to change it. No, because that part played no part later in the story.
Exactly. So. Like we don't even see Batgirl again after that. But it doesn't even matter.
It didn't.
It doesn't even matter. And at its core, Hush is about family and trust and mistakes we've made
and identity.
Very good. Yep. Very good. Identity. I don't know, what were some of the things that you noticed, the changes that you saw that you just didn't think added to it?
Well, I just got it's very condensed. One.
Yes.
The one that, and again, this kind of bummed me out, was the Superman-Batman fight.
Yes. It's not a long fight in the comic.
It's not.
It's my favorite. It's one of my top 5 favorite comic book covers of all time. Batman 612, and it has Superman choking Batman on the cover.
Oh yeah.
Excellent Jim Lee art. It's just like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen?
Oh, for sure.
And it's not a long fight in the comic. It's just a few pages, but it's so smart.
Yes.
Years ago, Superman gave Bruce a kryptonite ring that Lex Luthor had, and was like, hey, if I ever need to be stopped, I know you'll be the one to stop me.
Right.
Bruce carries it around in his belt at all times,
for sure.
just in case.
That's right.
Which is very Batman.
Yes.
Bruce has got to go in the movie. Bruce has got to go to Metropolis, and he's already thinking ahead. Hey, I may have to encounter Superman just in case. And he calls Alfred and he says, "Get the jewelry ready."
Jewelry. Yes.
And I was like, "Sweet! I'm very excited about that because I know where that's going to go."
Yeah.
The reason that they're fighting is because Poison Ivy has kryptonite-laced lipstick, and she's able to affect Superman. Yeah. So she tells him to kill him, this and that. And I'm going to do the comic fight first. So in the comic fight, it's fantastic. Batman lures Superman underneath the city because all of the tunnel, or the sewer system, is lead-lined because LexCorp lead-lined it so that he can get away from Superman if he needs to.
Yeah, that's right.
He tells Catwoman, he says, hey, he shows up to Gotham with her, and he's like, go, Superman cares about the people at the Daily Planet.
Yes.
Of these 3 people, pick somebody. He tells her Perry White, Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane.
Right.
Doesn't tell him which one, just says pick one.
Yep.
So Superman finds them immediately underneath Metropolis, and before he can start, Batman's like, you know what building we're under, right? And they're under the Daily Planet. He's like, I've cut a gas line, so if you use your heat vision at all, you're going to blow up the building. And Superman is fighting the kryptonite kiss.
Yes.
So he's not killing...
Because Batman even says...
If he wanted to.
Already.
Yeah, if he wanted to, he could just kill us.
Yep.
So he knows that Superman is fighting it.
Right.
And it's this great thing where in the comic book, he puts on the ring and he just takes a huge swipe at Superman. Yep. Just right across the chin. And Batman's internal monologue is what really sells the fight.
Yeah.
He says, I got to keep him off guard. And he's like shouting at him. He's like, hey! And he hits this thing on his belt that does hypersonics.
Right.
He's like, so only Superman and every dog within a 2-mile radius, they're going to have a headache tomorrow. And he's just like laying in shots of the kryptonite ring, and Batman in his mind says, the Kevlar helps a little bit, but if I keep doing this, I'm going to shatter my hand. He's using electricity, he's baiting him and switching him and this and that, and he's tricked him into not using his heat vision, and he's like, I know Superman's fighting this because deep down, Clark's a good person. Deep down, I'm not.
Yeah, that is my favorite Batman line, bar none.
Yes. It's such a great line.
It is.
And then he's like, hey, you remember I told you I cut that gas line? He's like, well, I was lying. And then like puts charges on him, blows him up to get out, and this and that. And but it's a quick fight. That's pretty much the fight.
Pretty much it, yep.
And they took that very short fight in the movie, and then they cut out a bunch of stuff. They don't do the hypersonics. Nope. They don't do the electricity. Nope. They don't do the explosion.
Nope.
And he pulls out 2 kryptonite brass knuckles and not the goddamn ring that Lex used to have. And I just don't understand why. It's just,
how did he get enough kryptonite to make 2 kryptonite knuckle dusters? That's what I wanted.
Yeah, it's hard to find. The Justice League is taking care of a bunch of it.
Yeah.
And it just seemed, it felt like Michael Bay was kind of involved in the planning of this film. It's a huge change, guys. It's a huge change. But it's small, but it's also big. And it's just like, what was the point of it?
Yeah.
Because in the movie, something that they did change that I like is they really try to flesh out the Batman and Catwoman love story.
Sure.
And I'm fine with that. Because it does really develop in this story in the comic.
Yeah.
But they have like, 2 or 3 sex scenes with Catwoman and Batman?
Yeah. Real quick about this, and this is just a little side.
Go for it.
Little detour. There's a very not subtle thing they did in this, and I just busted out laughing. It's when Bruce decides to go on a date with Selena Kyle, shows up at her apartment, and they're talking back and forth, and then Batman opens up a bottle of champagne. The champagne busts open, and then you hear a cat go meow and jump. I wonder what they're trying to say there. I couldn't help it. I busted out laughing. I'm like, was that intentional?
Oh, gosh.
Because that's just too great. But anyway.
It's too much. And, give me 2 less sex scenes with Batman and Catwoman.
And creepy Alfred watching them in the shower.
Yeah, that was weird. He comes downstairs and he's got a plate of rechargeable sex snacks for Selena and Bruce. And give me two less sex scenes, and then give me the 30 to 45 seconds more of that Batman Superman fight.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
They changed that. They changed.
Well, because in the beginning, it's not Killer Croc; it's Bane, right?
Yeah, and so in the comic book, it's Killer Croc who kidnaps the kid.
Okay.
But in the movie, it's Bane.
Right.
And he's on a new version of Venom. And again, why change it?
Why?
Why change
Killer
it?
Croc would have been fine.
Because now, not only do you have to explain the Bane thing to a guy who's read the comic and the audience, whereas you just explain the Croc thing to the audience.
He's just a crazy dude.
Yeah, it's fine.
And then, I don't remember. Did we get an Amanda Waller cameo in the comic book? If not, I thought that was a cool little thing.
I don't remember her significance in the comic, but it wouldn't shock me if she did.
Okay, because that was the one moment I did like. It's for you, if you didn't watch it, the Amanda Waller shows up at. They're trying to transport Bane somewhere, right?
Yes.
He's part of the Suicide Squad, correct?
Yes.
So she's trying to just get him back, basically.
Yeah, more or less. Get her toy back.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
Which isn't in the comic at all. And guys, I'm gonna walk under the pretense that you guys have watched the comic or watched the cartoon, or read the comic, because I could explain the whole thing to you, but I don't want to ruin the comic because the comic's amazing.
Yeah, I just going back because that was the one thing I did like.
I did like that they put Waller in there.
Yeah, that was really cool. I always love Waller and Batman's back and forth. Neither of them back down. It's so cool. You didn't care for it.
No. I like it.
Oh.
I think I like Amanda Waller more than I like Nick Fury.
Well, that's bold.
I think I like Amanda Waller more than I like Nick Fury. Waller seems more cutthroat than Fury.
Wow. I mean, man.
And for those that don't know, Amanda Waller is basically the Nick Fury of this world, of the DC universe.
Yep.
Some other things that they change, probably the biggest thing, guys. Again, you got to read the comics. You got to know the story.
Yes.
Is that they fundamentally change who Hush is.
Yes.
In the comic book, it's Bruce's old friend Tommy Elliot and the Riddler in cahoots.
Right.
But Hush is Tommy Elliot.
Right.
Tommy Elliott's in the animated movie, and they go so much out of the way to make him a red herring. They give him shifty eyes, like he looks at the camera a couple times, and it's kind of like his eyes are going back and forth. Like it's so like you're like okay, cool. No, they end up making Hush just straight up the Riddler.
Yes.
And the reason it works in the comic is because there's a moment in the comic after Bruce is kind of on the Hush trail, and the trails kind of got cold, where the Riddler is robbing a bank. And they're like, oh, could the Riddler be involved? And the Riddler's just like got a zany group of guys, and they're robbing a bank. And again, Bruce's inner monologue is really great in the story.
That's what makes Hush amazing, is the inner monologue.
Yes.
Absolutely right.
And he's basically talking to, thinking to himself, he's like, he's like, the Riddler, he's never really done anything important. He's like, I half expected him to retire by this point. He's just really downplaying how the Riddler is just a C-lister, a D-lister, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Catches him real quick. And in the comic, he kind of finds some, like, powdery residue that looks familiar to him. He's scanning analysis and all that. In the comic and in the film, a member of the League of Assassins comes to Batman and is like, hey, somebody used a Lazarus pit.
Right.
And you wouldn't happen to know anything about it. And Bruce was like, nope, but I'll look into it, kind of a thing. And in his inner monologue is like, man, who's stupid enough to use a... Now, Bruce, when he finds Lazarus pits, he destroys them.
Yes.
Because he's comfortable taking on the League.
Yeah.
But he's like, and Batman said, who's stupid enough to use a Lazarus pit? Because when you use one, it's not usable again for hundreds of years.
Right.
So it's a big deal if somebody uses one, and it's a big deal that Bruce destroys them.
Right, because, Raj Raish would have something to say about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, in the comic and in the movie, the Riddler is the one who used it. He had a brain tumor.
Yes.
So he uses Tommy Elliot, because Tommy Elliott's a brain surgeon, Bruce's childhood friend, to like try to operate on him, and he can't. It's inoperable. So the Riddler ends up finding access to a Lazarus pit. Right. And I did like the depiction of it in the animated movie.
Yeah, that was cool.
Because in the comic book, Bruce and Riddler are kind of talking about it in Arkham, and he's in there and kind of telling Bruce his master plan after Bruce has kind of figured it out.
Right.
And they kind of depict it animated, and you show him get it, and he's like, it got my mind racing, it got my body racing, and he puts it together while he's in the pit that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Right.
And it's, so that's why, and then he goes and he tells Tommy Elliot this. So Elliot does know, but he doesn't tell any of the other like all the other villains are kind of playing into Hush's hands. For sure. Because they're afraid of him. They don't know who he is.
Yeah.
They don't know that it's the Riddler. Only Tommy Elliot and, it's Tommy Elliot who is Hush, but they don't know that Riddler is kind of pulling the strings.
Right.
And it's this great moment where, you'd be worried if you're Batman that Riddler knows your secret identity. And Batman says a great thing. He's like, the worst thing about a riddle is everybody who knows it. He's like, I know. He's like, maybe you told Tommy because you had to. He's like, but I know you didn't tell Ivy and you didn't tell Croc. You didn't tell any of those guys because you want that secret to yourself.
Oh, for sure.
And he's like, and you know what? And just in case you think you can tell somebody about it, he's like, I know that you used a Lazarus pit. And I'm pretty sure that Raish would like to find out who did it. So they're like at this weird stalemate. But there's the Hush comic book storyline is Bruce having to kind of deal with the fact that the second Robin, Jason Todd, died because he wasn't trained properly.
Right.
He got out into the field too early, and the Joker kills him. For those of you that don't know, Joker kills the second Robin, beats him near death with a crowbar, blows him up with a grenade.
Right.
And it's brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal.
The story's called A Death in the Family,
Yep.
and it's super sad, and it's like really that moment, and then Barbara Gordon being shot. Like those are the two probably worst moments of the Joker's career for Batman.
Sure.
And during the whole comic book, there's this great thing where Bruce falls in the alley is the first time he sees Jason Todd.
That's right.
Where there's a lot of references to Jason Todd being Robin. And the kind of mid-climax of the story is we don't know who Hush is. There's been tons of red herrings in the comic. Where it could be Two-Face. It could be it's just...
And again, testament to the writing.
Oh, it's fantastic because we don't know. We don't know.
Legit don't.
And Robin gets to this, Jason Todd's grave has been desecrated.
Yeah.
And so obviously Bruce kind of has like alarms on it just in case anybody might try to use it to screw with him.
Sure.
So the alarms go off. Robin, the newest Robin, Tim Drake, gets there first. And when he gets there, Hush is holding Robin. We see Hush and Robin having a fight, and Hush keeps calling Robin Pretender. He keeps referencing things. And Bruce gets there. He sees them fighting. Bruce is having to fight Scarecrow and Catwoman, who's been affected by and Huntress.
That's right.
They've been affected by the fear toxin, so we know Scarecrow's involved. And when he's seeing Hush fight Robin, he's like, his fighting style is familiar. Yeah. He's like, it's all, like as the readers, we figured it out like, oh my God, is Hush Jason Todd?
Right.
And it's this great moment. He gets the he gets the upper hand on Tim Drake, has him by the throat, and he tells Bruce, he's like, you still haven't figured it out yet. You still haven't figured it out yet. And he uses a batarang to slice the bandages. Hush is a bandaged character. Slice the bandages from his face, and it is like a grown looking Robin.
Yeah.
And it's a cliffhanger in one of the issues. And you're like, for a month, I was like, oh my, it was all I could talk about.
Yeah.
All I could talk about. It's fantastic. That's not even in this comic or in this animated movie.
No, it's not.
None of that is in there.
We get a pseudo graveyard scene, sorta, but it's Tommy Elliott's grave, correct?
Tommy Elliott's grave. Tommy Elliott isn't even Hush in the animated movie. He's not even involved in the story other than to be a dead body.
Pretty much.
And it's just so bad because it's the detective work that we get to see in the comic book is Bruce fighting this grown Jason Todd, but Jason's only calling him Batman. He's never saying Bruce. He's never, so Bruce isn't trying to give away too much, and he kind of starts to put it together. And it's not that the fighting style reminds him of Jason, is that it reminds him of Dick.
Yeah.
It reminds him of Nightwing.
Yeah.
And, he's like putting it together. He's like, you couldn't mimic the boy who died. He's like, you didn't know. He's like, so you mimic somebody that you thought you could. So like as they're fighting, the rain starts to happen, and Jason and our fake Jason Todd is like, I loved you. All I wanted to do was to please you and this and that. And he's like, Jason never needed that, and he knows that. And as they're fighting in the rain, you're starting to see him kind of melt a little bit, and it's Clayface. Yeah. And it's such a great oh my, and it was, as a reader, it was like, oh my gosh, who is Hush?
Yeah, it keeps pushing it.
It's so good. Like it's the ultimate crotch tease for the entire story. I was really trying to find a clean way to put that. It's the ultimate tease, and it's so well done in the comic book, and it's not even given a thought in the movie.
We get sort of like neutered versions of those scenes separated. We get a neutered cemetery fight with Scarecrow, Nightwing, and Catwoman.
Yes, and it just doesn't work.
It's whatever.
It's okay.
It's fine.
It's just not. There's no meaning.
It makes no sense.
The entire animated movie is hollow.
Yeah.
It's just hollow. Yeah. Like if you were to hold Hush in your hand, you're afraid it might crumble.
Yeah, it's like one of those Kinder eggs without the prize in it.
Oh my God, that's
all
great.
it is, man.
That's so good.
It's got the sweet outside, but then there's nothing in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
and there's not much chocolate yet.
Yeah, like this is just sugar, and there's no substance to it.
Exactly.
And that's just like the best way to describe this movie as a whole. Yeah. It was just hollow and weak.
Exactly. Then we get that neutered Clayface scene.
Yeah. But it works for the movie.
For the movie, but...
So Bruce figures it out in the movie.
Go ahead.
Goes to Arkham, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to get our scene again where he's like, Riddler's kind of talking about how smart he is.
Right.
And instead of Clayface being Jason Todd from the comic, he is actually the Riddler.
Right.
Because the Riddler... the cancer that he had really ravaged his body, and while he did get healed by the Lazarus Pit, the Lazarus Pit's effects fail over time.
Yes.
So Bruce figures out that this is a version of Clayface, which I really enjoyed. So let's talk about some of the good.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the fight with Clayface in Arkham.
Yep.
After it's revealed
That's pretty cool.
that Riddler is Clayface.
Yep.
And the way the Joker is reacting. You know, Joker's like, "Are you already seeing other people?" You know, and he's just like being like a scorned lover. He's telling Gordon to like stop Clayface, you know, like so that Clayface doesn't kill Batman and all of this stuff. Like, that was super fun.
That was brilliant.
That was super fun. And I really enjoyed, like I said, the more fleshing out of Batman and Catwoman's relationship.
You know, as much as I initially hated that aspect,
yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah.
I actually really liked Catwoman in this. I loved her her dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
The voice actress hit it out of the park.
She was great. The worst voice actress of the story is Batman.
Big time.
Dude, he has no emotion in this whole thing.
You're absolutely right.
Which is, again, in the comic book, you're seeing Hush push Bruce to the edge.
Yes.
You're seeing him, like, have to think about this stuff. It's affecting the way he's fighting. It's affecting a lot of things. He does not know what's going on.
Right. And I think maybe that's why this movie suffers, is because in the comic, we get that inner monologue.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes that book so amazing. But in a movie, or just, you know, in the animated movie, it's just, you can't really put that on there or into it. You could, but it might not sound right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it suffers from, is that we don't get to hear him thinking and
figuring it out.
You
know, because that's for us. And like, I get it. In an animated story, you're trying to just follow along.
Yeah.
But another thing that hurts this franchise is that they're trying to link these animated films.
Oh, they are.
Yes, they're in the so when he's talking to Damien and Ace, or not, it's not Ace in the animated movie, but like Damien's not involved in Hush.
No,
Damien hasn't been introduced yet.
He's just there for like a quick, like, tells his dad to wear protection,
which is weird. Yeah.
Cover your drink so he doesn't get date raped, apparently.
Yeah, by Selena Kyle.
Yeah, I felt like there was just a lot of little fan service nuggets in there.
Yeah.
And that's all it was.
And this animated movie, there are other movies where this voice actor and animation team have been doing, so they tried to like fold that universe into it.
Okay, so does this one take place in the same universe as Killing Joke?
No.
Okay, good, because I'm like, this doesn't...
It takes place in Justice League War, Justice League, I believe, Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Okay, so, gotcha.
Yes.
So that is... Okay.
Yes. So it's the same animation. It's the same voice actors.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think the Suicide Squad Batman movie, which I haven't seen,
it's pretty good.
Is it good?
You dig it? Yeah, it's pretty good.
So
that is why there's a scene with Lex Luthor where he's like, "Hey, I saved you guys from the cyborg Superman."
Yes.
So, okay, so I didn't get that.
The Death of Superman. Yes, it takes place in the Death of Superman animated that they did. They did 2 animated versions. The most recent one is in this universe as well.
Gotcha.
Same production company.
For sure.
So I get you're trying to weave a story, but they don't even spend the time in their live action movies to try to weave a story. Why are you doing a poor job? It's not that it's, you know, Hush is Coke and then the animated Hush is Diet Coke. This is like Diet Right. You know, it's just not the same thing.
Not.
You lose all the impact. And for those of you that have watched this movie and you're like, "Oh, this is really good."
Cool.
It's good by itself.
Sure.
It's good by itself.
If you think of its own microcosm, then great.
Yes.
Don't try and compare it to the comic book like I did, and I'm sure you did.
Oh God, yes.
And then you're not gonna like it.
Because even I bought the Steelbook from Target. It's beautiful. It's kind of it's Jim Lee's art, but it's definitely like cel shaded is not the right word, but it's like a different art style applied to his pencils.
There you go. Yeah, there we go.
And you know, guys, it's just. I didn't care for it as much as I care for the comic. I read Hush as a comic book at least once a year. I read all 12 issues once a year.
For sure. It's amazing.
I think it's fantastic. Batman 612, I probably own close to 15 copies of it. And in counting. I'm going to keep going because I love that cover.
You do.
I want to own every issue of 612, and I want nobody else to have them.
Oh, my. You know, it's funny because I'm sure we'll get a little backlash. Like, well, you know what? You can't compare the animated movies to the books because it'll never be better. Like, not true. Let me tell you this animated movie called Under the Red Hood, which buries the comic book in my opinion.
It does. Yeah.
So
Batman Under the Red Hood is fantastic. Jensen Ackles as Jason Todd, the Red Hood. And see, that's the thing. If you want to link it to anything, let's link this movie to Under the Red Hood.
MPH as Nightwing. Come on, man.
Very interesting. I was down.
I will say this about. I'm gonna reveal a bit of myself here. Under the Red Hood, the animated movie, is legit one of the only the only cartoon that's made me cry.
Really?
That scene where he's like, when he's confronting Bruce, as Jason, and he's like, talking about how he wouldn't let. He's like, if he did this to you, I would have hunted him down and da 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 da. Like it hit me, man.
Yeah.
It was a gut punch, and it was just.
Yeah, when he's like, I'm not talking about killing Two-Face or Ivy or Croc. He's like, I'm talking about just the Joker.
Just him.
And he's like, and for no other reason that he took me from you.
Yeah.
And it's such a good moment.
I'm already like, yeah, that really hurt me. Like,
And
it hit me hard,
and it's
dude.
better than the comic.
It is.
And Hush didn't need to be better than the comic, but take the Hush comic book and just make it move. Like just animate the comic book. Like that's all I needed you to do.
Yeah, and then I get you need to take things out. You need to take pieces of it out, but leave the skeleton there.
Yeah.
Don't hack off pieces of don't hack off limbs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right.
Keep the skeleton in place,
The stuff you added didn't add anything to the overall story.
No.
And the stuff you took away meant
Detracted
everything.
It.
Just meant
derailed
everything.
it, dude. Yeah, I don't know. Again, kudos to most of the voice cast.
Yeah.
Catwoman, great. Amanda Waller cameo, great.
Yeah.
Joker
was great.
We get that iconic pose with him with the bang gun standing over Tommy Elliott. Great.
Yeah.
Other than that, I didn't care for it.
Yep. Like I said, for me, it's a strong C-.
Yeah,
and not that it's almost a C+. No, it's like if it would have caught me on a bad day at work, it would have been a D movie. You know what I mean? So it's not. It's hollow, guys, and I'm really bummed. You guys know how excited I was about it.
You were.
We've talked about it numerous times. We've talked about the comic book even more.
Oh, yeah.
And
we will continue to talk about this film.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
It comes up all the time. It comes up in my day-to-day life.
Oh, for
all
sure.
right? So watch it. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel the same way? What was missing from the movie that you like from the comics?
Or what did you like better in this movie?
Oh,
if there is anything.
Sure.
Tell me.
Yeah.
I want to know.
I'll rewatch it if we get enough people saying,
hey,
well,
dude,
this was cool, and this was cool, and this was cool.
Exactly.
I'll watch it
Me
a
too.
second time.
Me too.
I'll watch it a second time.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, folks, that has been our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what we're doing, please hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends, give us a like, leave a comment. We do have a fan.
We do.
And if you're listening, you know who you are. You've been commenting on YouTube. Shout out to you. And Eric, what did you learn today?
I learned that you can't beat the best, man.
Yeah.
And Hush is the best Batman story written. And if you're going to animate it, do it right.
Do it right. Just do the right thing.
Do the right thing. Spike Lee.
Shout out to Spike Lee. I learned that you can have Batman not be cool in his own movie. Like, I didn't think that was possible. Batman was my least favorite part of the movie. Catwoman stole the show.
She was.
She stole the show. She was excellent.
She was.
I'll give you that. I honestly might like this version of Catwoman better than the one in the comic.
Okay, fair enough.
I might. Like, if somebody said that, I wouldn't argue with them.
Me either. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Again, thank you guys for listening. I have been your host, Roman Chavez.
Still Eric Icarus.
Check us out on Instagram at REC Comics. Let's get a dialogue going. Shoot us a DM. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.